So now we want to get to the situation of actually calculating interest, doing the math of basic interest calculations. And again, this slide's in here like, I think 5 times. It's so important to remember that as we start doing this math, every time a monthly payment is made, the interest portion is coming out of that payment first before anything gets credited toward the principal. If there's only $50 left after the interest gets paid, well, then, oh, well, that's all that gets credited toward the principal is $50. Okay. So, because the interest is always going to get deducted first. When that monthly payment is set, it is set using something called a loan factor or an amortization factor. A loan factor or amortization factor is simply a number that tells you what the monthly payment is going to be. Now, you have in Learn, Test, Pass, and I'll show you what it looks like here in just a second. In fact, I'll fast forward and show you. You have a chart that looks like this in Learn, Test, Pass called the loan factor or amortization factor. Any of you looked at it and seen that? I know Seth will probably share it in the chat with you. Have any of you looked ahead and seen this thing in Learn, Test, Pass?
Yeah, I got it.
If you've already looked ahead at it, that's good because you got a jump start on memorizing it. I think, one of the things that's probably the worst about the class is having to memorize this chart so that you can use it on the test. That's why we give it to you early in the class so that you can memorize the loan factors, because you're going to need to know these so that you can use them to help calculate these payments. And like Seth says, flashcards are really helpful with that. Taj is looking at me crazy.
Like, please tell me he's not serious.
I'm waiting on it.
You don't have to memorize the chart.
And you weren't smiling either.
No, I wasn't smiling. You don't have to memorize the chart. They will give you the chart on the test. So let's talk about what a loan factor chart is. Now that you can stop panicking and you're going to have it, right? You're going to have it available. The chart tells you a monthly payment for a certain loan. It's based on, and we'll go to the next slide for a second and I'll back up. It's based on 2 things about the loan. They'll tell you the interest rate of the loan, and they'll tell you the length of time that the person has borrowed the money for. All you're doing at that point, look at what I've done here. This is a 4.5% interest rate loan for how many years that I've highlighted right here?
15.
15. And what you're looking for is where they cross each other. That's the number that we're going to, of all those numbers on the chart for that loan, we only care about how many numbers on that chart.
That one, 7.65.
That one, 7.65. Does everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So now let's talk about what that number represents. The number that you find on the chart represents the monthly payment on that loan if the borrower borrowed exactly, no more, no less, $1,000. So now I'm going to go back to this slide. We're going to talk about it for a second. If somebody borrowed $1,000 and took 15 years to pay it back at 4.5% interest, how much would they have to pay every month, folks?
$7.65.
$7.65. As soon as that clicks in your brain, the chart will make so much sense. All right, so talk to me before we go any further. Talk to me if you don't understand what we've looked at the chart so far. Because what we're saying when we look at this right here is if Taj borrows $1,000 and she's going to take 15 years to pay it back. First of all, she's a deadbeat if she takes 15 years to pay back $1,000, but that's beside the point. If she's going to borrow $1,000 and take 15 years to pay it back at 4.5% interest, she's going to pay $7.65 a month. And that includes the interest. That's principal and interest. that's fully amortized principal and interest. Does that make sense for everybody?
Mm-hmm.
So if she makes payments 12 months a year for 15 years of $7.65, when she makes the last payment, how much does she owe on that loan?
0.
0.
Zero. Everybody with me on that so far?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then look at this one. What's the monthly principal and interest payment for a $1,000 loan at 20 years at 5% interest? I want you to take a second. Just make sure you can find it in the chart. I want to know the monthly payment for a $1,000 loan, 20 years, 5% interest.
660.
660.
Mhm.
That look right for everybody?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, really, because all you're doing is looking like you're going here and here. And that's where they intersect, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So that monthly payment is $6.60. And how long would they be making that payment?
20
20
years.
20 years.
Years. So if you wanted to do the math, you could say 20 times 12, that's 240 payments of $6.60 to pay back how much money?
$1,000.
$1,000. Everybody good so far?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, I do have a question. How do we do that? How do we use the chart if we, real numbers like 700,000 or 500,000 for a house?
I really should think about maybe like including that in the presentation, William. Like, how would you deal with the numbers were? I should think about that. shouldn't So, what number did we just say it was for $1,000?
660.
660, right? Now, I'm gonna tell you, this is where the math's gonna get real hard here. Here comes the difficult part. What if we borrowed $2,000? Couldn't we just do 660 times what?
2.
2.
2.
What would the monthly payment be?
320.
20.
20? Here's all we did, folks. If we borrowed $2,000, watch this trick. Watch this trick. Find the comma at the thousands place. Replace it with a decimal. 2,000 becomes 2.000. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the number you multiply by to get that payment. So look at the next one. 6.60. If we borrowed 5,000, what will we multiply by?
5.0.
5.00.
5.000, right? So what's the payment?
33,000. 33,000.
Not 33,000. Nope.
3,300.
Oh, 3,300. Yes.
Not 3,300 either.
$33.
Y'all better learn to
go.
read.
$33.
Y'all better learn to
$33.
$33.
$33. Yeah.
Y'all better start paying attention to those damn decimals. I'm telling you.
Yes.
You can't just throw numbers in the calculator and not pay attention to decimals. They matter.
Sure.
They matter. How about 12,000? Well, the loan factor stays the same, right? It's still 660 times, turn that comma into a decimal, and you times 12.000, right?
$72.
79.20.
920.
79.20.
So, never mind. I see what I did wrong.
You just type probably $6. I'm guessing instead of 660.
I forgot the 60.
Yeah, $6. So now this was William's question way back when, and I bet William can answer it now for himself. How are we going to calculate that payment if they're borrowing $187,000? It's still going to be the same loan factor of $6.60 times what?
187.000.
What's the monthly payment?
1,034.20.
34.20.
How many of you now think you could calculate any monthly payment on any loan at all as long as you got your calculator and that chart?
Yeah.
Yes. I
Yes.
can't believe it's that easy.
Looks easy, but it's not.
I gotta be honest, man. I really love this class. You just make this stuff so easy. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
I need to do that last class I took.
That's all this chart is, and that's all this chart does.
I hated this. I hated this chart.
But it's not hard, right?
No.
It's not hard.
do it.
So look at this question right here. It says Sam is purchasing a home for $450,000 and obtaining an, because this is a test question right here. Okay. Sam is purchasing a home for $450,000 and obtaining an 80% loan to value loan in order to accomplish the purchase. He has been offered a 30-year note issued at 6.25% interest. What will his monthly PI payment be? Well, the first thing I think we need to do, can we all agree that we need to find the loan factor in the chart before we go any
Yeah.
further?
Yep.
Yes.
So 6.25, that's 6 1/4. And I'm going all the way across here. And then I'm coming all the way down from 30 years here. Does everybody agree that we're at 616 there?
Mm-hmm.
I have a question about that.
Okay.
6 what?
Now, why would we take the entire home purchase when we're only getting a loan for 80% of the LTV?
We haven't done anything with the amount yet. The amount doesn't matter when we're looking it up in the chart. I'm not sure what you're asking me. Why
I
are
think
you?
I'm stumped. So my thought would have been to take the $450,000 times 80% of the loan to value ratio,
Yeah.
and then get that number that we're financing, and then do the chart.
Oh, so what you're saying is you like to put your left shoe on before your right shoe, and I like to put my right shoe on before my left shoe. But you're
Well, and the reason why I'm thinking that, because say for instance, the 20%, the other 20% that was not financed, we could just pay for that from cash. So we do not have to.
and again, how's that going to change the interest rate or the term of the loan?
It would change it because we're only financing 80%.
It changes the amount of the loan, but we're not talking about the amount of the loan yet. Here's what I'm trying to tell you. It doesn't matter what order you do it in.
I see.
At some point, you're going to have to look up the number on the chart. And Taj, if you want to do your part first, no problem. But what I'm telling you is it doesn't matter what order you do it in, because the interest rate, guess what the interest rate is going to be? Whether you borrow 10%, 90%, 50%, guess what the interest rate is right here?
616.
6.25%.
6.25. Guess how many
Oh.
years you're borrowing the money for?
30.
30. Does it matter if it's a 50% loan to value, a 40% loan to value, a 100% loan to value?
No.
See what I'm saying now?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
Okay.
We can do the part you're doing first, or we can do the part I'm doing first. Either way, we got to do both pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I'm saying is I just like to get the chart out of the way, because then I know the only number, because to me, this is like, I get freaked out. It's a lot, right? You know, so I want to get rid of the chart, because now, can I get rid of the chart?
Yeah.
The only number that matters from the chart is what number?
616.
$6.16.
Does that make sense for everybody?
That's your loan factor.
That's my loan factor. Now we do need to do the part that Taj wants to focus on, because the amount of the loan is going to matter for what number we multiply times,
Monthly payments, yes.
right? Okay, so the loan amount here is going to be $450,000 times 80%. Does
80%.
everybody understand where that comes from?
Mhm.
Okay, so what do we end up with for a loan amount?
360.
360,000.
$360,000. Everybody okay with where that came from?
Yeah.
Okay. And what's our loan factor? $6.16.
16.
So when we calculate the payment, all we got to do is take our loan factor of $6.16 times, and I'm going to change colors here so you can see the difference. I'm always going to go to the comma in the thousands place and simply change it from a comma into a decimal. So what number am I multiplying by here?
360.
360.000, and that gives me what?
221760.
2217.60.
Mhm.
Does everybody see where that came from?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm gonna go back and just put the chart on the screen for just a second. And I'm gonna add to this question because I want you to do one completely by yourself. So you can still use the 5% interest here at 20 years. That's fine. Okay. But let's say we're doing a $545,600 purchase at 90% LTV. So a $545,600 purchase at 90% loan to value for 20 years at 5% interest, and I want to know the payment. That's about as complex as it can possibly be. So if we look at the chart, 5%, 20 years, how many of you came up with 660 as your loan factor? Everybody good on that?
Yes.
Yes.
So we got a factor of $6.60. All right, if I look at my loan amount, 545,600 times 90% loan to value, I came up with a loan amount of 491,040. Everybody all right with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And this is where my little trick of just changing the comma into a decimal is so helpful, because isn't it real easy just to go 6.60 times 491.040?
Yes.
Yes.
And when you do that, what you come up with for your payment? I came up with 32.40 and 86 or 87 cents. Does that sound about right for y'all?
What they said.
Depending on your rounding, you might have got 86 or 87 cents. Either one of them is great. Either one of them is great. Now, if you did not come up with that number, we need to figure out where you went wrong. Now, if you just multiply times 491, you're going to get a different number. You can't just multiply times 491. You can't ignore everything after that decimal. That's why you just need to change the comma to a decimal. That it might seem silly when it's 187,000 to say I'm multiplying times 187.000. But if you'll stick to that, when they give you an odd number, you'll still get the right answer. How do we feel about using the chart now?
Better, yes.
Good.
Good?
Mm-hmm.
Lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. That's the amortization chart or loan factor chart.
Travis, before you move on, I'm sorry. Can you go back to that slide? I understand the math, but I'm doing something wrong and I'm not getting these same numbers.
What number? What? So talk to me. What number are you not
For
getting?
the 491, I have no idea where that's coming from.
Okay. What'd you calculate for your loan balance? for your borrowed amount.
All right, let's start from the beginning. We're taking the 6.60 times the 90%, correct?
No.
Okay, that's where I'm screwing up. Okay,
90% is the amount of the purchase you're borrowing. 660 is the payment on the loan. You need to take the 90% of the purchase price to figure out how much is being borrowed. So you need to say 545, 600 times 90%.
okay, because I did something and it came up with the same final answer. Okay,
Yeah,
that's where I'm,
No,
all
you
right.
need to calculate your loan balance. So you need to think about the process, not just throwing numbers in the calculator, right? So you've got to come up with the amount borrowed. You're talking about a payment on a loan. If I
Okay.
ask you how much did they borrow, could you tell me that number? Because if you can't tell me that number, that's a problem.
Okay,
And that's what we need to fix. So we need to figure out how we're going to calculate how much is borrowed. And the way we calculate how much is borrowed is we take the purchase price, which in this case is 545, 600,
yep,
and we multiply times the loan to value ratio, which is the percentage that we're borrowing. And that's where that loan amount came from. That's where the $491,040 comes from. So the person is borrowing $491,000.
gotcha. Okay, I'm with you now. And then times the percentage, the term.
And then,
Okay.
and then change the comma to a decimal times $6.60.
Okay, I just got it. Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Can you do one more, Travis, please?
Can you pay me $100?
Sure.
Okay.
Cash App, is that fine?
Yeah, oh, sure. Sure. Okay. All right, let me get this erased. I'll do one more real quick. Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
All right. Let's change our, oops, let me do that. Let's change our numbers up a little bit here. Okay. We'll go back. Where were we at? Give you the biggest one here. See it. All right. Let's say we're going to do a 30-year loan at 4% interest. Okay. 30-year loan at 4% interest. And let's say this is a $247,000 purchase at 75% loan to value. And I want to know the monthly payment. So a $247,000 purchase sales price at 75% loan to value, and the loan is issued for 30 years at a 4% annual interest rate. Okay. I've got to go get my calculator back. I hate using my phone as a calculator.
Yes, okay. Cool.
I got 885 and 50 cents. What do y'all think about that?
Yep.
Looking good.
Awesome.
You can do that. You can do anything you need to do with a loan factor chart. So basically, as we progress through this math, anytime you need a payment amount and they don't give it to you, sometimes they'll give you the payment amount. Sometimes they'll say the monthly payment is this. But anytime they don't give you the payment, are you going to freak out, or you can be like, oh, hell, that's what the chart's for?
What the chart is for him.
That's what the chart's for. That's why we do it first, because the chart gives you the payment. By the way, we don't do this anymore because now we all have smartphones in our pockets and you can pull up a mortgage calculator. But when I got into the business, we used to all carry this around in our pocket. We used to all have one of these folded up in our pocket, because if you talk to your buyer and they told you, oh, well, the bank gave me a 5% interest rate and I'm gonna borrow the money for 30 years, could you quickly know how much their payment was going to be based on the sales price of the house you were showing them by simply referencing the chart, right? That's what it's for. Are we all okay with moving on? Good. By the way, that's probably one of the most missed math questions on the entire test right there. And you just whipped it. You already got it. Okay. So we need to talk about something called a budget payment. Up to this point, we've only talked about the PI payment. We have not talked about the real payment in full, which is the PITI payment, which on the test they will refer to potentially as a budget payment. The P and the I stay the same, principal and interest, but it is very common for lenders to want us to escrow in additional expenses, property taxes, insurance. If you think about it, the property taxes are going to be billed annually, right?
Yep.
When do property tax bills come out? Remind me of that. We've talked about that before. When is that property tax bill going to come out?
January 1st.
September.
That's when it
September.
When does the bill come out?
September.
Oh, September 1st.
December, right? And
Yeah.
and when's it late?
January
January
1st.
6th
January 6th.
of the following
January
year.
6th
Next year.
January 6th of the next year. That's right. So when are most people paying these?
September, January 1st.
On January 1st,
You know, like-
2nd.
Right. Sometime late in the year, early in the next year, right? Right around the holidays. How many of your friends do you know that have an extra $4,000 or $5,000 laying around to pay their property taxes come December the 28th?
No.
Ain't me.
Lenders get very worried that you might not pay the property taxes. So I call this payment your lender doesn't trust you to pay your own taxes payment. And so they make you pay it monthly to them. Who's actually going to pay the tax bill? If you're making a PITI payment monthly to your lender, who's actually going to pay the tax bill to the county?
Your
lender.
The lender.
Your lender is. Who's actually going to pay the insurance bill to your insurance company?
The lender.
The lender is. They're taking your annual insurance bill and your annual tax bill and breaking it down into a monthly payment, and they're simply adding it on to your regular loan payment. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yep.
And the reason we call it a budget payment is it makes it much easier for people to budget their expenses by spreading them out on a monthly basis rather than having, oh, well, here's my monthly house payment, but I also have this big annual tax bill, and then I also have this separate insurance payment. People struggle with that. And so the PITI payment allows them to make the same consistent payment 12 months a year. That's why it's the most common one. Our challenge is going to be, and remember, we've already done this before. We've looked at the PI payment and then busted it up into principal and interest. Our challenge now is going to be to take a PITI payment and bust it into not two pieces, but what?
Four.
Four pieces, right? We're going to have principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. The best way to handle this, in my opinion, when you start trying to bust up this payment, is to do it in reverse. If they say principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, I'm going to do it insurance, taxes, interest, and principal, because I know what one of those is coming out absolutely last every single time.
The principal.
The principal. The principal's always coming out last every single time. Okay. So look at this example right here. It says Carson, I must have been watching Downton Abbey when I wrote this question. Carson is obtaining a 280,000, and yes, I watched Downton Abbey. Don't judge me. Don't judge me.
I've watched the series, all of them, about 4 times. Love
I know this is like my 3rd time through it too.
And the movie's coming out soon. Yeah,
I know they're having a new movie.
so excited.
Exactly. Maggie Smith's still in it, and she's 174 years old, and she's still gonna be in it. It's awesome. Awesome. Carson is obtaining a $280,000 mortgage note at 5.25% annual interest for 15 years. The home has annual property taxes due of $2,960 and an annual homeowner's insurance bill of $960. Based on this information, what will be the total PITI payment? So remember, we just did something that helped us come up with a payment, but the payment that the chart helps us come up with is only the PI portion of that payment. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yes.
So what we're going to have to do now is combine the chart, which gives us the PI portion, with the rest of this, the taxes and insurance portion. So let's start to do that. Let's start to.
This is such a eye opener for me because I thought you could only use the chart for PI payment.
Right.
Which
Well,
you can, but
then you can also add that into the taxes and insurance portion to get the real monthly payment that somebody's going to be making. So let's work on the PI portion from the chart first. Let's go ahead and get the chart out of the way. It says that the loan is going to be at 5.25% interest for 15 years. So 5.25 is right here, right? And then 15 years is right there. So that looks like that one right there to me, which is $8.04. Does everybody see where I'm getting the 804 from?
Yep.
yes.
Okay, by simply lining those two up on the chart. So my loan factor is 804. So that's step one. I got my loan factor. Now, let's turn that into a payment. Okay. Let's turn that into a payment. Did they tell us how much we're borrowing? They just gave it to us, didn't we? They said we're borrowing what?
280,000.
$280,000. So to calculate my payment, it's always going to be my loan factor of 804 times 280, right? 0.000. Everybody okay with that?
Uh-huh.
And that's a monthly PI payment of $2,251.20. Are we all feeling good with where that number comes from now that you know how to use the chart?
Yep.
Yes.
But they want to know the PITI payment. So now we need to talk about tacking on taxes and insurance. Well, it doesn't matter really if we do taxes or insurance first. We can do them in whatever order we want. I think on the slide here, I have insurance first. So they tell us the annual insurance bill is $960, but that's annual. We need to break it down to monthly. So divide by what?
12.
12. And that gives us $80 a month in insurance. Guess what we're going to end up doing with that $80 a month, folks?
Adding it to that.
Aren't we just going to add it to the other monthly payment we've got?
Adding.
Right? And the taxes is going to be the same thing. They told us that the annual tax bill is $29.60. Divide that by 12, that's $246.67 a month, which is also going to get added in up here, right? And so now we've got all the pieces and we're ready to assemble that payment. The payment we came up with from the chart, $2251.20 plus $80 a month in insurance, plus $246.67 in property taxes. Our monthly PITI budget payment is $2,577.87. How we feel?
Good. Makes sense.
We're about to find out how we feel. Oops, your turn. Take about 3 minutes. Have fun.
Is the the school zip code for the card 27609?
I'm sorry.
Is the business card zip 27609?
No, my home, 27511. I got 2671 and about 16 or 17 cents. Does that sound somewhat familiar for everybody?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Because I came up with a loan factor of $4.92 from the chart. Everybody get that step? Did you get $4.92? Okay.
Yes.
They gave us the loan amount. So did you get $2,091 for your PI payment?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there anybody who did not get to $2,091 for the PI portion of the payment? Are we all good with that? Great. Okay. And then for monthly property taxes, I simply took the 5642 and divided by 12. And that gave me $470.17 for the taxes. And for the monthly insurance, I took the 1320 and also divided it by 12. And once I had all the pieces, what's the math look like over here, folks? Just do what?
Add them all together.
Just add them all together. 2091 plus the 470.17 plus the 110. That equals a total PITI payment of 2671 and about 16 or 17 cents.
Mm-hmm.
That is how you fully calculate a monthly payment. How do we all feel there? Pretty good now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you'll bear with me, I got one more thing I want to talk to you before we go to lunch, and it's very simple. Very simple. One more thing, but it'll knock out. It'll be a good math topic to knock out before we hit lunch. Interest paid over the life of the loan. You're going to see test questions about how much interest is paid over the full life of these loans. That's going to be a pretty common test question that you'll see. And people tend to make this so much harder than it is. Here's the thing you got to remember, folks. If you know the monthly payment, and either they're going to give it to you, or aren't you going to have your handy dandy chart around that you could come up with the monthly payment if they didn't give it to you? Right?
Yes.
If you know the monthly payment, that monthly payment already includes interest in it. If you know how many times a year we pay that payment, and how many times a year is that?
12.
12. And then they tell you how many years they're paying it back. Can't we pretty easily calculate how much somebody is going to pay back over their loan in total? I mean, look at this one. How much is the total principal and interest paid over the life of a 30-year mortgage loan issued at 5% interest with monthly PI payments of $1,074? Well, if we're paying $1,074 a month, how many months are there in the year, folks?
12.
12.
So that's times 12. Everybody good with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And how many years did they say they borrowed the money for?
30.
30.
So times 30 years. If we do that, on that loan, we have paid back a grand total of $386,640. If we make every payment as scheduled on time, no more, no less, we're going to pay back $386,640. Talk to me if you don't see where that number comes from. Because that's that's a pretty straightforward number, isn't it?
Yep.
Just monthly payment times 12 months a year times how, if it's 15 years, you would have just done 1,074 times 12 times what?
15.
15. If it was a 20-year loan, you would have did 1,074 times 12 times 20. So it's always times 12 months a year and times whatever number of years they give you. That's the total payback for that loan.
Principal and interest.
Principal and interest.
Because that payment includes both of them.
Because it includes both. The question they're more likely to ask you on the test, though, is this question right here. How much is the interest paid over the life of a 30-year loan? Folks, that's no harder than what we just did. Because if we can calculate the total paid over the life of the loan, we can just subtract the amount that was borrowed. Does it make sense that if we subtract the amount borrowed, that the difference is the interest?
Yeah.
Yes.
Isn't it amazing that it could actually be that straightforward and that easy to figure out how much interest somebody pays over one of these 30-year loans? But it is that easy, that straightforward. So that same loan, there's our 1,074 a month times 12 months a year times 30 years. So is everybody still good on how we came up with the 386,640? Are we all still good on that number? Everybody all right with that?
Yep.
Good. Now, of that 386,640, 200,000 of it was borrowed money. They told us that. We can just subtract that out. We can take that $200,000 and subtract it out because that's not interest, that's borrowed money. That leaves us with $186,640. Well, guess what, folks? That's the interest paid over the life of that loan. In other words, somebody who borrows $200,000 and is making a payment of $1,074 every month for 30 years is going to pay $186,640 in interest. Isn't that just a cute number? Isn't that nice to think about, that you're going to pay nearly as much interest as you're actually paying back in loan amount?
Mm-hmm.
You.
Such a nice number. Talk to me. Are we okay? We lost? Are we, where are we here?
We're good.
Pretty good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I want you to do this one then. How much is the total interest paid over the life of a 20-year mortgage loan of $225,000 issued at 4.5% interest with monthly PI payments of $1424.25? I want you to go through that process and come up with the interest paid over the life of that loan. I'll give you a couple minutes to do it. I always like you to practice one yourself. When you're done, you can take a look at mine and see what you think. This, by the way, is a math question on the test too. How do we all feel about $116,820?
Yes.
Good.
Good?
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Very good. You should get comfortable with the math we've done so far today, folks. Probably represents half of the finance math on the test. So if you can handle what we've done so far today, you're halfway through acing the finance math on the test. That should be like a reassuring feeling, right?
Yes.
Don't twist yourself into pretzels and get all worked up about the math. You're going to be fine with that. I think you're going to probably be fine with the lunch break too. Y'all think about that?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, sounds good.